It's 8 p.m. and here are our top stories. Westminster rocked by another explosion, the second in 2 days.
The house was just blazing, it was on fire. The flames were so hot it started turning blue, and we all evacuated.
This time, a group of townhomes up in flames, leaving several families out in the cold.
I came outside and the whole side of the building was blown off.
This is right out of the Russian playbook, and this is part and parcel of what we predicted all along.
U.S. officials say a full-scale invasion of Ukraine is imminent.
It won't be bloodless. There will be suffering. There will be sacrifice.
The U.S. now enacting new sanctions against Russia, hitting their banks, government, and elites.
These costs are going to escalate from here.
Bitter cold and high country snow. The Arctic air holds for another night across Colorado.
Plus, Denver pulls an about-face on its vaccine requirements.
It's time to move to more of an endemic response to managing COVID-19.
All of a sudden, my whole building shook. There's a fire in the building right across from mine.
We're continuing coverage tonight on the very latest on the housing complex explosion in Westminster.
Yeah, this is at the Stratus Townhomes off of Sheridan Boulevard and Highway 36, which is just over a mile from the site of yesterday's blast. Thankfully, so far, there is nothing that indicates any connection.
Thank you for watching Denver 7 News on Local 3. I'm Jessica Porter.
On BNU, we know that at least 8 units have been destroyed and 2 people have minor injuries.
We're also learning contractors were working on water heaters and furnaces, and investigators are looking into whether it may have played a part. Denver 7 Sloan Dickey joins us tonight, where the scene is still active and smoldering. Sloan.
Well, firefighters are still on the scene. If you actually take a look behind me, they continue to put water on the smoldering house. This house was still burning with open flames when we arrived around 2:30 this afternoon. That was an hour after that explosion had been reported. We actually spoke with some residents in nearby houses who said they could feel the heat from the flames more than a football field away from the townhouse that burned down. Officials gave few details as to what has caused this explosion. Fortunately, nobody was killed in this incident. 2 people are being treated for mild injuries, however. Earlier, neighbors recounted the scary moments after the explosion and the quick action that residents here took to make sure everyone was safe.
Everybody's trying to help each other out, man. Grabbing dogs, moving them out the way, carrying old women down the sidewalk and everything.
It was just a giant plume. The whole sky. And then with the wind, it was coming just this way. So all the ash on the ground and everything, it was just coming straight at us.
This explosion comes just one day after another explosion in this area. One person was killed yesterday in an explosion also in Westminster that was about 2 miles from here. Now, officials have not said whether those 2 are linked, as both are still under investigation. In Westminster, Sloan Dickey, Denver 7.
Sloan, thank you. And again, this is the second residential explosion in Westminster this week. There was another yesterday at an abandoned home near Highway 36 and Federal. And looking at this map, you can see just how close the 2 explosions are to each other. Investigators have discovered possible human remains in the debris at the abandoned home site and are still looking into the cause. Denver 7 also found that police had been called out to that home several times over the past 6 months. 2 of those calls were on a suspicious person seen near the property. We'll keep monitoring both scenes and we'll bring you the latest on air and on the denverchannel.com. And you can also find information right now on our free Denver 7 Plus app.
And as we take a live look over Denver, I'm sure you've noticed it's still freezing outside. In fact, it's below freezing. Yesterday, Denver had a record high of 8 degrees, Jess.
Ooh, ouch. And this morning we hit -7 degrees in the city. That's a new record low for February 23rd. It beats the record of -4 degrees set back all the way in 1899. That means this morning we hit the coldest low in Denver in 123 years. Welcome to Denver, Danny.
Yeah, history. I always like being a part of history. Here with more on whether this cold snap will ever end is meteorologist Mike Nelson.
Danny, at the end of this newscast, I think you go upstairs to the assignment desk and volunteer next week when it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and 60 degrees, that you're the one that goes out and talks about how nice the weather is.
Again, I just need a doctor's note from you.
I will.
Saying Danny should go outside.
Yep, I'll give you the note. Absolutely.
Thank you,
Danny needs to be out live next week. All right, let me show you what's happening right now. These are the current temperatures. We're 7 above in Denver right now. but we'll be on our way down to about 0 tonight. The wind chill, fortunately the winds are pretty light in Denver at the moment, but still quite windy out in the Northeast Plains. 21 below on exposed skin at Sterling. The wind chill advisories continue there. In the mountains, we still have the winter weather advisories and the heavy snow warnings, especially central and southwest mountains for tonight. We're getting a little band of snow moving through the metro area now. It's not going to amount to a ton, but we might pick up that ½ an inch to an inch overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, which means those streets will be a little slick again. But there is some good news coming up in our forecast as we head into the next 5 to 7 days. This is a view currently up on the Pearl Street Mall in Boulder. It's a little snowy up there, but I do have 60s in the forecast, and Danny, I really think you need to be a part of that.
Least I can do. I'm a team player. Happy to help.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. Well, Denver will no longer require city employees to be vaccinated against COVID. The changes also apply to Denver teachers, contractors, and workers in high-risk settings.
Denver 7 CB Cotton is looking over the new order that goes in place at the end of next week, and she joins us in studio with an update. CB?
Jessica and Danny, as we've navigated the ever-changing COVID protocols during this pandemic, the word we've heard a lot from city leaders is data. And that's the key word in this situation, too. The Denver Department of Public Health says the city has reached a point where the virus is no longer spreading as rapidly, so this is the decision that makes sense right now. In fact, the latest data shows that Denver Metro's one-week positivity rate has dropped below 5%. And Bob McDonald, director of Denver Public Health, says their modeling suggests lifting the vaccine mandate will not have a negative effect on the downward trend. Now, many of you might remember last August, it was announced that the vaccine will be required for the vast majority of employees who work for the city and county of Denver. And by October, city leaders reported that over 90% of the workforce was vaccinated. Of course, some people were fired for choosing not to follow the mandate, and they were told they couldn't be rehired for 5 years. We learned today those terminations will stand.
The discipline process with respect to this mandate is the same discipline process that's used for other disciplinary matters within the city. I don't just serve as the public health administrator, I manage a department myself. Those disciplinary measures were in place long before the pandemic. Employees had the opportunity to make their decision. And the rules for when employees get to return if they've been dismissed are still going to be followed as they have been, again, even before the pandemic.
And despite the city standing firm surrounding the disciplinary process, some people who were fired are considering their next legal steps. We'll have more on that coming up tonight on Denver 7 News at 10. And Danny, we should also note federal and state vaccine mandates are still in effect for workers and people in certain settings, including medical facilities. For Denver 7 News on Local 3, I'm CB Cotton.
Thank you, CB. And let's take a closer look at the numbers tonight. So Denver Health officials say that COVID-19 positivity rates are now below 5%. Meanwhile, our positivity rate for the entire state is around 3%. So to put that all in perspective, the last time Colorado was below even 5% was last July, approximately 400 years ago.
Former Douglas County Superintendent Corey Wise has been hired by Jeffco Schools. Wise will serve as a community superintendent through the end of the year. Now, he recently retained high-profile legal counsel and appears to be gearing up to sue Douglas Schools for wrongful termination. Meanwhile, new recordings from Douglas County School Board members are shedding light on the day Wise was asked to step down. We'll take a behind-the-scenes look coming up at 8:30.
Coming up on Denver 7 News at 8. Stay in your lane.
Endangers people.
Contact Denver 7 is hearing complaints about a Commerce City road and drivers who can't stop crossing the line.
People need to obey the speed limit, and we don't have enough cops, period.
Dining before takeoff, we take a look at the food and drink options coming to DIA, including some local favorites.
More cold and snow tonight and early Thursday, but you're going to really like the 7-day forecast.
And a turf war tonight between CSU and Wyoming. Our Denver 7 sports team breaks down the latest in what's being called the biggest college basketball game of the season.